Thanks, John. Good to be here. And as he mentioned early on, we first started working on our Separation Rapids lithium project 25 years ago. I saw the future then. Maybe I was a bit early, but our time has finally come. A little bit of background information on Avalon in terms of we've been in this publicly traded company since 1995 when I took it over as a shell company. And that was when the Bre-X scandal was happening, and that's what motivated me to start looking at other commodities as opportunities to access capital, and that's when we acquired our lithium project, was in the context of the Bre-X scandal. And so obviously we saw the potential at that time and have created an asset portfolio with other rare metal projects that we're looking at as opportunities now too. But the focus is now on lithium. And I like to point out, as John did earlier, that while we've been around for a while, we've been always relying on the equity markets. We've got nearly 400 million shares outstanding now. And we're quite undervalued as a lithium equity, considering that we have the most advanced project in Ontario. It's not anywhere near as the same valuation as some of the early stage exploration companies. Why is that? Because we haven't had a whole lot of news flow on exploration drilling results because we drilled it off over 20 years ago. So that's why I think there's a good opportunity now for investors looking to get involved in investing in lithium to look at our company. And we have enough working capital now for the short term. And one of the things we recognized early on is if you're going to produce materials for clean technology, you need to show how you're going to do it in environmentally responsible ways. So we adopted ESG principles 10 years ago and been producing an annual sustainability report. And that's going to help us now too in terms of accessing capital from the growing ESG investment community through green bonds. And last year we had Sustainalytics Morningstar do an ESG risk rating for us that ranked us pretty high, so that door is wide open for us now. And as I mentioned, we're a diversified player in this space and have an asset portfolio, but our focus now obviously is on the lithium project at Separation Rapids. We have another one in Ontario called LilyPad that actually we're now focused on more for cesium and tantalum because the enrichment in those two is exceptional there. And one thing that wasn't pointed out earlier is that there's actually two different types of lithium pegmatites. There's LCT, where you have lithium, cesium, tantalum, and then there's just pure spodumene pegmatites. So it's LCT are the ones that have lots of potential byproducts in them, and that's what our Separation Rapids resource is too. We can probably produce cesium and tantalum there as byproducts. And the Greenbushes mine that was mentioned, that's an LCT pegmatite too, as was the Tanco mine in Manitoba. But they had spodumene in them. Well, the spodumene is actually spodumene quartz intergrowth formed from metamorphism of petalite, the main mineral we have in our resource. So, as mentioned, we got started on this after it was discovered in 1996 by the Ontario Geological Survey, actually. A geologist named Fred Brakes initially found it. It was staked by local prospectors. They were looking for someone to option it, and that's how we acquired it. And we had an opportunity early on because this lithium mineral petalite has always been in demand for high-strength glass ceramic products. And at the time, Corning were looking for a supply of petalite, but unfortunately they decided to exit that business at the time, and we couldn't quite get the ball over the line to get it started, but we knew it would have another day, and here we are. And we have secured 10-year, 100% ownership of this project. Good access, I'll show you in a minute. No significant environmental impacts, and that's one of the things I like to emphasize with lithium pegmatites is that unlike a lot of other metallic commodities, there's nothing in them that represents a hazard to the environment. In fact, when lithium gets in the water, it's good for human health. And that's now getting more understood by people everywhere. And we've had First Nations interest for quite some time in working with us on this, and we're going to be able to take advantage of that. And one of the things I've been doing a lot of is informing First Nations on how this represents an important new economic development opportunity for all First Nations in the North that are not yet participating in the Indigenous economy. And there's been some important recent developments in Ontario relevant to our project. Ontario announced their first ever critical mineral strategy to support basically getting these supply chains started in Ontario for electric vehicles. And most of the things that they put in that strategy were things that I've been advocating for and recommending for many years. Finally listened and got it. And I've also been pointing out how this creates these new economic development opportunities for the Indigenous economy. And it really does, because now the federal government is providing access to capital for First Nations that want to invest in getting going in this critical mineral supply chain space. So there's doors wide open for them to partner and or find and develop their own lithium resources. So really good government interest now in this sector. Location map on where we are, as I said, we're close to infrastructure just north of Kenora, Ontario, with existing road access, and just north of the main line of the Canadian National Railway, so good access to rail for shipping concentrates wherever we have markets for them. And we're within the traditional territory of this Wapsimaang Independent Nations, and we want to partner with them on developing this project going forward. And our resource is different in that you don't often hear about pedalite pegmatites, but it's a rare type of LCT pegmatite, as I mentioned earlier. We have both pedalite and lepidolite, which is another lithium ore mineral. It's a mica. We'll be able to concentrate both of them as feed for our facility to make the battery materials, and it also often contains cesium that can be recovered as a byproduct. Plus, there's also tantalum in the resource, and another mineral contains rubidium in the feldspars, and that's also got high value in certain applications in ceramics. And with our land, this is our current land position, and the original property was in red there, and we'd taken that to lease as a mining lease. But we actually added more claims onto the northwest side there, because basically Separation Rapids is in a belt of rocks that extends all the way into Manitoba. It's the same rock formation that hosts the Tanco mine there. So there's basically a belt there with lots of other lithium pegmatites, and having recognized that potential up there, we acquired more claims, and sure enough, there's a whole bunch more lithium pegmatites up in that area, and one really interesting one called Snowbank that we're planning to do some work on soon. But our main focus has been on creating the battery materials supply chains, and because there are so many lithium pegmatites in Northwestern Ontario that are now being looked at as development opportunities, our vision was to create a refinery in a central location, and Thunder Bay is perfect because of all the transportation infrastructure there to access markets internationally through the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Seaway. And there's so many other pegmatites that can take advantage of having a refinery there. And the City of Thunder Bay is very supportive of it. And we've now got a site that we've picked out on the waterfront. That's basically an abandoned industrial site formerly used for a paper mill. That is in the industry that was foundation of the economy there historically. So Thunder Bay is looking for a new industry to replace that, and they get it on these critical mineral supply chains. So there's a lot of support in Thunder Bay there locally for us getting that started. And it's going to be a growth business going forward. And the main news we've had recently was basically building that processing facility is the most expensive part of developing the lithium battery material product. And so we needed a investing partner. And we were introduced to a major Indian company called the Essar Group, and they've now agreed to enter into a partnership with us to help finance the building of the refinery. And that's been well received in government circles, and it looks like we're going to get additional funding support from both the federal and provincial governments. So while it's going to be like a $500 or $600 million capital expenditure, it's not going to be massive dilution for our shareholders. We've got other access to capital to get that started. So I know we also have First Nations expressing interest in being a partner with us on the refinery too, and taking advantage of the opportunity. Briefly, John mentioned some of the highlights from our 2016 PEA, and highlighted in red there is you just take those original numbers and replace them with a number that's more reflective of a probable long-term average price for lithium hydroxide. The IRRs and the NPVs go up quite a bit from what they were when we were assuming a lower price for lithium back in 2016. So no doubt about it, this could be quite a profitable business. And we're also going to try to continue to serve the glass ceramic market because there's a lot of demand there too. Petalite is in very short supply, and it's been preferred for a lot of these products, and there continues to be innovation in other types of high-strength glass, and lithium is always the critical ingredient. Corning's Gorilla Glass is one example, and I've seen some innovated in Japan, high-strength flexible glass. It won't break, and you can actually bend it. I think it's going to be something that EVs will have to start looking at as part of the whole lightweighting strategy. So our next steps, basically, we've want to get going here as soon as possible. We actually recovered a bulk sample last year so we could start doing some process test work. And unfortunately, there's still not a facility in Canada that's properly set up to do it properly to produce a high purity concentrate for the glass ceramic market. But we now are going in the process of acquiring a demonstration scale DMS plant that would be ideal for using initially to produce those samples, and that could be ultimately part of our process for concentrating the petalite. And it's a very efficient process, relatively low cost, doesn't use any toxic chemicals or much water, and that's what we're looking at doing in the short term. And that'll help us establish the markets, and then with our new partner, we'll finish off feasibility studies and hopefully be able to get things going on the battery materials side within the next 3 to 4 years, and probably start some initial sales of petalite for glass ceramics before then. Lastly, this is our management team. We've been around for a while, so we've had a little bit of turnover in some of our officers, but we've been able to recruit some new members to the team to replace them. And we've got a diverse board of directors there. And one recent addition, the bottom of that list, Chief Harvey Yesno, First Nation leader from Northwestern Ontario that I've known for 20 years. And he joined our board at the end of last year. And he is very well respected by First Nations across the North. And he gets it in terms of the opportunities for the Indigenous economy related to lithium battery materials supply chains. And he's now supporting getting that message out to First Nations to see this as a really important economic development opportunity. Because unfortunately, many of them have been indoctrinated in the past that, no, all mining is bad, you can't allow that. It doesn't do any good, it just harms the environment. Well, got to inform them that with lithium, no environmental risk, only upside in terms of economic development. So I'll leave it at that, and thanks very much for your attention today.